Helen Yee here with Las Vegas Sports Network, and I'm here at Liberty High School being joined by head football coach Rich Muraco. Great to see you. Beginning of the season, I see your team practicing hard behind us. Can you kind of talk about what you guys have worked on so far?
Wow, we've done a lot. We've been really kind of at it since January of this year, with weight training. We did spring ball, 7-on-7, and now we're at the last phase right before we get to put pads on. So we're just in helmets, kind of getting used to the heat, and we're going to do we've been kind of focusing on tackling this week, and just polishing up our offense and putting in our defensive scheme.
Now, is there anything in particular that you have worked on with your team over the summer?
Not really. I mean, it's like just the whole program in itself, as far as discipline and teaching the kids to work hard, and then installing our offense and defensive schemes. As we've gotten closer now to the season, we started to prepare for our first two games. So we're practicing for Saguaro out of Arizona and American Heritage from Florida.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk to you about that. Your first three games, it seems like you guys are just traveling and it's trip after trip. I mean, do you see an advantage from kind of starting off the season traveling a lot?
Absolutely. It focuses the kids. They get more fired up right from the springtime when we announced where we were going. And it's good for us coaches because, we're playing three really great teams, and we'll get to see where we stand right away as the season gets going. And I think it mentally prepares the kids for league and for playoffs, because if they can compete with those national level teams, then we should, in theory, be able to compete with the local teams.
And speaking of national level teams, I mean, you guys have done well the past few years, and going to state the past 2 years, and then facing Gorman, who is nationally ranked. I mean, do you think that, kind of helps motivate your team because of that?
Yes, absolutely. We have a tremendous amount of respect for Bishop Gorman, what they've been able to do, and how good that they've been over the last 8 years has really elevated our game, because we're chasing them. We're trying to narrow that gap, and we're pushing ourselves in the weight room. We're pushing ourselves with our strength of schedule, and hopefully one of these days we'll be able to get them.
Yeah, and they have had quite a few seniors graduating after last season. So what's your mentality, knowing that?
Well, every year is a brand new year. All of us lose a lot of players, and the better programs are able to reload, and that's kind of what Gorman does every year. A lot of times they get guys that come out of nowhere, and all of a sudden they're superstars and all state or all league players, and that's kind of how we are too. We lost a lot of really good players, but we know that we have the depth in our lower levels, and when they get the opportunity to shine, hopefully they'll make the most of it. So we don't really get excited because we think, that team's going to be down. We just kind of take care of ourselves and focus on what we have and what we need to improve upon.
Now, speaking of superstars, you guys do have now a senior quarterback, Kenyon Oblad. I mean, are you kind of expecting him to kind of step up into that leadership role this year?
Absolutely. We took a little bit of heat from some people, that starting a freshman quarterback, 3-4 years ago when he was a freshman, and we did that because we knew, number one, at the time he was the best option we had, but we also knew that if he would get the experience, that by the time he was a senior, the sky would be the limit for him and for our program, and that's where we're at right now. He's so advanced. He has almost 40 starts under his belt. He's seen just about everything you can see in a high school football game, and we're putting a lot more on his shoulders as far as giving him more freedom to call some audibles and to change protections, and a lot of our success is going to be is going to go as Kenyon goes. So if he plays well, we'll play well.
And can you talk a bit about how much he's grown since a freshman?
Oh, it's incredible. Just from a physical standpoint, he's put on 20 pounds of muscle this year. Mentally, obviously when you're 14 years old, playing with a bunch of 19-year-olds, it can be a little intimidating, and especially when you're playing a quarterback and you're expected to lead those guys. So he was a little shy, his freshman year, but as he's played and as he's excelled, the team kind of he's earned their respect, and he's the unquestioned leader on our team now, and kids look up to him, and I'm excited for him in this season and his future.
Talking about his future, has he told you, I'm sure a lot of schools are looking at him, but which schools he's interested in?
He has 6 offers. I know he really likes UNLV and UNR and Western Kentucky, and he likes all the schools. I don't know where he is exactly. He hasn't said for sure. He's keeping an open recruiting process. I'm not sure if he's going to make a commitment before the season or if he's going to wait till the season's over.
Kind of circling back to what I was talking about before, how you guys have been doing very well. I mean, do you think going into the season that it kind of gives your team like pressure, and do you think they respond well to pressure?
I think there's pressure for every team, whether you've been successful or you haven't been successful, and I think that our kids, more than the pressure, I think that they believe and they trust in the coaches, they trust in the process, and they know that if they do what we ask them to do and they work as hard as we ask them to work, that there's a pretty good chance we're going to be successful again. So from my standpoint, we want to put the kids in pressure situations. We want to put them in tough games. We want to challenge them in practices, and the more you do that, the better they can respond. So, I don't know. Maybe if Kenyon talks to you, he could answer that too.
Yeah. And what about the Liberty, students and the fan base? How important is it for them this season to come out and support you guys at the games?
Oh, it's tremendous. The kids feed off the energy of the crowd, and when they want to see their classmates, their girlfriends, their friends and family, and just the community in general get behind them, and they get amped up, and it might not carry them through the whole game, but definitely initially it gets them fired up, and obviously when you're at home and you have a big crowd, it can work to your favor to kind of rattle the opposing team. So we're hoping that we have a good crowds each game. We traditionally do have some pretty good crowds here, so we'll see how it goes.